Hello again, everyone. Hope you're tied on. It is a Friday, the 13th edition of Gulfstream today here from beautiful, sunny Gulfstream Park. Gulfstream Park through the years with the Open. Ron Nicoletti, Jason Blewett alongside. Delighted to have you with us here. Got another 9-pack on tap today, and let's hope we get through this Friday the 13th, my friend, without any insanity.
Well, a lot of people think Friday the 13th is lucky. Not me personally,
Right.
but a lot of people do, especially Italian people think it's lucky. I don't know why.
Well, you're getting your Jason fix here right now on Gulfstream today, and of course throughout the afternoon as we have the entire 9-race card coming your way. Keep it locked, say it all the time. A great crew behind the scenes, and they make the show go on each and every day along with everybody, including horses and jockeys and grooms and hot walkers and all that stuff. Now let's get down to business. A little bit of a preamble here and some housekeeping at the top of the show on this fast and firm Friday the 13th, as we do have a field of 9 maiden claimers, in fact, getting the card underway at around 2:20 p.m. in about an hour's time. 4,000 plus in that dollar rolling super high five that of course coincides with the opening leg of the 50-cent early pick 5, and a bit later on, boy, that mandatory payout back on Saturday, June the 30th, feels like a long time ago, Ronnie, when you look at nearly $200,000 in the carryover.
Starting to get in the fun zone now, $190,000, of course, only for a 20-cent wager. We end the day with that final pick 5 in the afternoon. That's the last 5 races, only $50 cents to play along.
Yes, just 50 cents, my friend.
I'm putting $50 in it, but...
Are you?
No.
What's your Rainbow Six?
4320.
4320, the magic number for Ronnie. And, I mean, all kidding aside, no matter how much you're putting in the Rainbow Six and or the late pick 5, today's featured 8th race is about as good as it gets. It is almost like an XY jet free Smile Sprint in a way. You got a couple of horses coming out of the Smile Sprint back on June the 30th, just a couple of weeks ago here, and Diamond Oops is back from the layoff. Really nice field that also includes Cautious Giant.
Yeah, I mean, I found it so tough and such a great race. I went 4 deep in my Rainbow Six, which was shown a while, because it's a great race. Got my long shot in there, too.
Oh, sounds good. All right, we'll have a couple of replays coming your way with Harry He, Cautious Giant, and the 3-year-old Diamond Oops. Did you use him at all?
I did. I used him. No, I did not. I don't think I used him. I didn't know what to do with him coming off the layoff. Hadn't run since December, and what a tough spot to come back.
Boy, you just don't see 3-year-olds like him kind of surfacing in fields against older horses, but we'll talk about that with Diamond Oops, the crew, down the line, down the Florida Turnpike, as we say, in race number 8 this afternoon. So it's on to the action here at 901 South Federal Highway on a sunny afternoon, and why not take a look at my $27 early pick 5 play that sees me only 2 deep in race number 1. 1 to 5 is preposterous, and again, there's probably about $25 in the pool right now because we have over an hour before they spring the latch. You're not going to get the 8 to 1 though on the morning line of the number 2 Pikes Peak or Bust. You'll see his last start in just a couple of seconds here. It was a trouble-prone and filled trip here a few weeks ago on the GP Green. He's 1 of 2 though, as he went bust and belly up last time out with no racing luck whatsoever. I am 3 deep in race 2. It's really, at least in my eyes, about a whole bunch. I mean, it really is a whole gang of very different looking second-time starters who are exiting different races. Big Pletcher dropper in race number 3, my friend. And with no McManaman, who figured to be second choice, I mean, how short a price are we looking, Ronnie, on Accumulator in the third.
Well, I'm going to try and beat it with Spirit Love, but I can understand everybody singling in there. I just don't trust that horse totally, and even though it's a $150,000 son of Super Saver. Going to try and beat it. Going to use it on my ticket, but
3 and 3 in races 4 and 5. I do like that 2-year-old maiden turfer we have in the fourth. That'll start that Rainbow Six with a $190 in the kitty. And the fifth race, not an easy dirt claimer. Ronnie's got the 3, Hannah Catherine, in the mix. He wound up picking the 5, Return on Top. I trimmed Hannah Catherine. She was the last horse out of the 5 races that I took off the ticket to get this below the $30 mark. I am hoping if I get there, maybe I'll have to make a little saver on her, but we'll see how this does with Accumulator as the single. So Friday the 13th, we begin on this edition of Gulfstream today talking about Ronnie in the first race. You and I both picked the number 2, Pikes Peak or Bust. Now, of course, the knee-jerk reaction for many might be, well, you know, this horse was almost 10-1 running for maiden 20 last out. It was a race, though, had he had a clean trip, he may have won, and this would be a moot point because he would no longer be a maiden. We will show you that start back here. In fact, the day before the Belmont Stakes on Friday, June the 8th. He's easy to spot. He is the gray horse, kind of the light gold and white cap and sleeves, and things for him are going well up to this point where he's able to save ground. Didn't have any great position, but he's inside saving ground. The rider on his back that day, Sammy Camacho, will take him off the rail, and this is where he's going to get stopped just a bit. In fact, the pretty notable and you know, a real steady there at the top of the stretch. He lost position, lost momentum, and then it's almost like a magical mystery tour off the far turn. He tries to go outside. He's got to go back inside, and then he's going to go outside again, all over the track for the number 2, Pikes Peak or Bust, who I think is sitting on a big effort here as he comes out of a race, Ronnie, where he had to make a few different moves and ran well, all things considered, to check in third.
Yeah, and that winner of that race, Violent Nature, was a repeat winner, and that was a 20 maiden test, but I think it's a lateral move this afternoon, and he ran like Pikes Peak, but, you know, there's 126 curves in Pikes Peak.
That's great there, Ronnie. Miguel Vasquez, in the meantime, taking the call from post number 2.
What do you mean? That's great, Ron. It's interesting. 126 curves. You should try and drive it sometime.
Maybe I will. The wife and I, we do like to explore. We love to hike as well. We enjoyed our time out in Vegas a few months back in March, hiking all over the place by day. And then, of course, it was on a 311 on Friday and Saturday night. Awesome class, the 7, the 9 Tropicality, the 2 other major players in the race. And we are going to see quite a bit of fluctuation on that board right there before we get closer to the Friday the 13th opener. Let's move on to race number 2. We'll hit the main track, and we come up to this $20,000 to $16,000 3-and-up maiden claimer, and again, we'll keep it short. Pretty notable scratch of the number 3 horse for Victor Barboza. It looked like that firster might get bet a little in this race, and with his absence, you and I both have the 4 Sky Point on top, who's one of basically 3 key second-time starters in this race, along with the number 2, Wild Colonial Boy, and the number 6, Sky Knight, but we're taking the Mirage boys there with the number 4, Sky Point.
Yeah, I did have that number 3, Carinolano, on top of my ticket. I scratched the Sky Point, dropping a notch. Took the overland route last time out when he was carried wide, turned it for home. Prior to finishing 6th, there was a 25 maiden sprint at the distance. I like the connections. Or Mirage going to keep it in the family. We're Romero Mirage in the saddle. Sold Dolly in the thing, and 6 Sky Knight on my ticket. Boy, that's a tough race with the scratch. I thought I figured it out with the first-time starter.
Yeah, that's a moot point, Ronnie. Again, 4 second-time starters who all look a little different on paper, going out for some good connections in race 2. Best of luck there. On to the 3rd. It's back to the Mirages for Ronnie with the number 2, Spirit Love. Now, we do have another notable early scratch in the form of the number 1, McManaman. That leaves us with a field of 5 with these 12-5 3-and-up claimers going a 1-turn mile. They've got to get around the number 6, Accumulator. Clearly, Todd is dropping to not only win, but to try and get this horse claimed away before Saratoga begins in just a week's time in upstate New York. Now, this is a move that has not been automatic. In fact, quite the contrary for the barn at just 3 for 14 with the 50% drops in class over the years. But from the outside post with a horse who is going to be in the driver's seat, against the number 2 Spirit Love. I'm going to take Todd here as my single, as the favorite. I just don't trust, like you don't trust Accumulator. I feel as though Spirit Love just rode a speed track last time out, but there's no denying he was good in that win.
Yeah, Accumulator was just so bad last time out against the 30 condition claimers. It's Todd Pletcher, it's Tyler Gaffalione. But Spirit of Love stepped up to face winners, broke from post 12, what I like, and just totally dominated that field of bottom 11 maidens. Won that race by 11+ lengths. So these two, I mean, on your ticket to do it, I'm going to try and beat Accumulator. And I used the number 3, as you did in second and third, Aristelli's a late running type. We should grab a share here. Antonio Sano. Edgard's Eyes, the problem, 1 for 21, son of Union Rags.
Now, Antonio picked up a win here yesterday in the first race with Cometon, and in fact, I spent my Friday morning with Antonio over at his Gulfstream Park West barn. Want to thank Antonio for having us over and being so hospitable, and was on talking with Antonio and hanging out with Gunnevero, who looks great. That right front hoof that was basically sliced in half when he ran in the Dubai World Cup in late March. He's coming along and just a few weeks out from his return to action here at Gulfstream Park. So some good news there with Gunnevero.
Yeah, I mean, boy, that was ugly when they showed it on.
Yeah.
Saw a couple of pictures of him. Glad he's doing well, and always a fun horse. He's a fan favorite, that's for sure.
And rightfully so. He's a fan favorite for good reason. The Grade 1 Woodward up at Saratoga Labor Day weekend looks and sounds like that will be the first major goal with Gunnevero coming back in just a few weeks' time with a nice little prep race at Gulfstream Park. And it's all about Gulfstream Park. We are not going anywhere. In fact, we're just getting warmed up on this Friday the 13th. Ronnie's Rainbow and a whole lot more after this.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
Welcome to my playground.
Well, Friday rolls ahead as we inch closer to that 2:20, give or take, start time on this 9-race card. Fast and firm, the sun is out. A great day for thoroughbred racing here at GP as our summer meet rolls full steam ahead. Ronnie and Jason with you from our clubhouse studios. High above the finish line and high above that pot of gold is that $190,000+ dollar bills. How about taking down the Rainbow Six today?
I would love to have a chance at it, and I'm going to show you my $43.20 ticket, and you'll see I used 3 deep in here, and I used I'm really not convinced in this race. I could have gone deeper, and as I mentioned in the 8th and feature race, went 4 deep in there, and just thought that was a fantastic race. But you see my single, and that comes in race number 6, and that is Fast Mama. And the reason I picked Fast Mama, dropped to its proper level last time out. Now everybody's going to bet Two-Step Blues, but Two-Step Blues loves to finish second. 18 previous starts, 1 win, 8 seconds. So I thought maybe that's a spot where I could single to keep my ticket affordable, because I certainly wanted to go 4 deep in race number 8.
Yeah, race 8's awesome today. I mean, it really is almost a grade 3 caliber crew of sprinters in there down the line. And if you do get up to race number 9, I think although it is a 12-horse field and basically maxed out in terms of capacity, I feel that race is a 6, 10, 11 till the cows come home. Yeah. If you get there and you're alive with those 3, I mean, anything, of course, can happen, and it likely will, because it is horse racing and it's also Friday the 13th. But boy, if I can make it up along with Ronnie to the nightcap, happy, happy, happy with that trio of the 6, 10, and 11. But anyway, the sequence begins, and we do so with style here as far as starting Friday's Rainbow, because we've got some 2-year-old maiden turf horses, always a good thing. Going 2 turns as well at 7.5 furlongs. As far as prior experience and turf form goes, you're clearly not going to find a lot of it going in. These races at this point in the year are usually about either first-time starters or horses trying the grass for the first time. That might not entirely be the case, though, to be fair, because two of these runners, in Riley Rules and the number 7 Scraps, both faced each other back on the 1st of June. There's not a lot to see with this replay. It's more of a window dressing replay, but we'll show you the race regardless because both of these horses ran pretty well. Now, the 11 Scraps in the Arundel White and Green is the one down on the rail setting the pace, and he ran okay, as did Riley Rules, who was up close, more or less had a mild rally off the far turn. But again, if you like both these horses, Riley Rules and/or Scraps, you're dealing with a pair of runners, in this case Scraps by Brethren, Riley Rules by Cantharos, who have already handled the turf and have done so quite well without winning.
Yeah, and I mean, that was my thought process. And Scraps is stretching out, as you mentioned, around 2 turns today after showing promise on the turf, hitting the board in one of the 2 sprints at 5 furlongs.
And he was actually pretty game, not to cut you off. Stayed on pretty stubbornly for second. I wrote more of a mild rally, that is, for the 9 Riley Rules. But both these horses ran well, and I'm assuming you like Scraps stretching out because of the speed?
Yeah, I just thought he would be the logical horse in there. Now I'm breaking one of my own rules because the Stanley Gold has 2 horses in there, and the other one being Joe DiBaggio. And if you follow jockeys, Jesus Rios is going to be on Scraps, while Jeffrey Sanchez, his go-to rider, is going to ride Joe DiBaggio this afternoon. So that was my little bit of concern. I went with Scraps on top of the previous experience angle.
Now, I like the other Arundel horse in Joe DiBaggio for the Sanchez angle. No doubt he's the first drink, first call rider for this barn, so that's a check mark. You've also got a younger half-brother to Archer Road, who has been and has really stepped up his game. He's one of South Florida's most improved turf horses, was just 3rd in last Sunday's Meccy behind Conquest Sandman. Now, the difference between Archer Road and Joe DiBaggio, at least potentially, is you've got a horse in Archer Road who's by Loire de Zanamo, who passed away. I didn't even realize that horse has been passed away about 2 years ago, but he was a turf champion. It is very much a turf stallion. Brethren might not be the case, way more of a dirt horse. I'm hoping that doesn't matter all that much in an early season 2-year-old maiden race. So I'm going to take Joe DiBaggio on top of Riley Rules. The number 7 Scrap certainly has a chance. And what do you do with the Cassie first, or the number 8 Home Drill, who will be the first turf starter for the first crop stallion and drill, who's 2 for 4 so far? Yeah,
by Lawyer Ron, debut from Mark Cassie. I want to show you a stat, not a very good one, with Mark Cassie, with 2-year-olds, first-time starters, maiden special weights, roots on the turf. He's only 4 for 44. That's 9%, 30% in the money, and only that $1.37 return of investment. So something the barn doesn't good. I don't have to tell you what kind of barn Mark Cassie has there. Fantastic. But this particular angle, I'm going to watch. Even though I put the horse in second because I was a little confused in this race, going with Scraps, I just think the stretch out's going to help that horse.
All right, Home Drill, coming out of a family in a dam, has already produced a whole bunch of winners. In fact, she's got Conquest 2-Step, Shake of Shakes, Homemade Salsa, who won on the turf last season as a 2-year-old for trainer Mike Maker. That horse arguably has the best pedigree. Of course, that stat, though, does come into play, and I'll be curious to see how those sons and daughters of Drill do on the turf. He is a 2 for 4 thus far in his young career as a sire. Let's flip the page. We're on to race number 5. I blew up $27 in that early pick 5. We're going back in for another 27 spot in the start of the late pick 5 in the 5th race. I've got the same 3 horses I used in the early pick 5, the 2, 4, and 5. I just want a 3-horse spread to start things out. Ronnie touched upon Fast Mama, who is the closer, the off-the-pace horse if you're looking for that kind of running style in the 6th race. I also think 2-Step Blues is going to run very well. However, she's got to get by that second-itis. She's also going to have company, you would think, from the number 7, Faithful Sue. I think the pace, overall race flow, very, very paramount and most important in that upcoming Friday 6th race. A single on the line in race number 7. First-time Zerpa, man.
Yeah, this horse won 50% of its races. Zerpa over 40% with new claims. You got to go there.
And there's no Song of Melody. You got a huge scratch of the number 1 Song of Melody, who figured to be second choice or maybe even vying for favoritism.
That horse was even money on the morning one.
Oh, wow. Oh, so there was a decent-sized spread between Zerpa and Joe Orsino's horse. But again, no Song of Melody from the rail. We've talked a few different times, and with good reason. We've mentioned mentioned race number 8, which is, I mean, on the cusp of a Grade 3 summertime stake race on this circuit here in South Florida. It's just a solid crew of horses, my kind of crew, and it's just a good race from front to back with a lot going on. And again, I wrote it. I'm pretty confident. Race number 9, one of the 3 on that ticket right there, the 6, 10, and 11, is very likely and unsurprisingly to walk away with a maiden diploma in the Friday the 13th finale. So, Ronnie, race number 5 on what is just a 9-race card, a bit of an old school vibe on this Twilight Friday as we start the late pick 5 with the 5th race. I'm in the camp, and Ronnie and I just boxing the exacta. I've got the number 2 Untruthful Sonnet for Armando de la Cerda. You're more of a fan of Victor Barboza, but what kind of numbers do you have with us with Untruthful Sonnet, who is back on the main track today?
Yeah, this is an incredible stat. Armando de la Cerda, turf to dirt, claiming in routes. He's 10 for 32. That's 31%. He's 59% in the money and almost a $3 return of investment, so good angle. But I did go with the 5 returners, returning from the layoff, stretching out to this one-turn mile, first starts and closing to being second. That was similar, going 7 furlongs back on May 11th. It's Victor Barboza Jr., as you mentioned. MSCL Jaramillo handling the added distance this afternoon. I got to use Untruthful Sonnet on my ticket, but return, like you said, we got our exact. And then the horse that you didn't use on your ticket was the number 3, Hannah Catherine, stepping up to the next level. Really was impressive, responded to the drop down of competition, walloped the field of 10 maidens by almost 6 lengths. You don't know what to expect with a horse like that, but I couldn't leave it off my ticket.
I understand. I was thinking the same thing, that perhaps that last race, even though she rode a track, at least in my eyes, was very kind to horses with early speed, but maybe it was another step in the right direction, because at one time she was cut out, relatively speaking, at being a potentially okay type claimer horse. We'll see if she can pair up 2 biggies this afternoon for trainer Eddie Broom, but I am taking Armando de la Cerda and Raylu Gutierrez on top. Armando picked up a nice win here yesterday in the 8th race, our featured 8th race, with Yes I'll Go, who may have not brought her A game, but got it done with a resolute, grinding out win in the 8th. Race number 6, as we flip the script again, we're on to this 2-turn turf mile, a 3-and-up filly mare, $16,000 claimer. So important. It's always important, but I think even more so here. How does this race play out, and how does it play out? How does that affect the number 1 Two-Step Blues? Will she have to run too fast or do too much early on due to the presence of the number 7 Faithful Sue, who really is a fast little filly? She breaks and she's in front.
Oh, and that was my thought process with singling Fast Mom. I just thought that horse would sit the trip. And Two-Step Blues, what sold me to make it my single, I mean, it's a little bit of a shaky single, was the fact that we've mentioned a couple of times already, that's Two-Step Blues, 18 previous races, 1 win, 8 seconds, and 1/3. So a little bit of second-itis in there. Tyler Gaffleon, Bobby DeBona with Fast Mom. I just thought that was a good connection. And I threw in 4 Captain Carroll and third, actually scratched into the 4 Captain Carroll. I thought after those 2, the race was wide open.
Oh, it's a big gap, I think,
Yeah.
and I think the tote board will suggest that as well. You're looking at the inside and the outside with Two-Step Blues, and further out the number 10 Fast Mama here, and everybody else bet somewhere down here because they're just not as good going in. Ultimately, I think it boils down to how fast Two-Step Blues is going to have to go, and we'll see if she can make it 2 for 19, or is Fast Mama just in the right place at the right time. Race number 7 may play out as a little chalky 2, and this might be a late pick 5 and Rainbow 6 for that matter. That might be a little chalky up to this point with very logical horses, and we had already mentioned the scratch of the number 1 Song of Melody, who was a big favorite on the morning line, and I just think with no Song of Melody, you just don't have many options in this race, and I think most people are going to look at a big effort 2-back out of the 7 Dancing Noel for Armando de la Cerda, claimed by a more under-the-radar barn, not such a great effort back on June 1st, but is coming back here with 42 days between races. I like that Gilberto Zerpa has taken his time bringing this daughter Maltese dog back, and they're going to like Dancing Noel.
Yeah, with that scratch, as you mentioned, really makes Dancing Noel look so much better. As we mentioned, went to Gilberto Zerpa. He's just been on fire with recent claims, and he's got the MSCL Jaramillo named. And as you look at this horse, won 50% of its races, 6 starts, 3 wins, got some time off, Star Millie in second for me. Second behind Dancing Noel when they hooked up. That was Jordan Meg. Renews the rivalry today. Pair of third-place finishes. Now, Eternal Tempest, who you have in second, took that quick trip up to Tampa and finishes, back in that race, but they went 21-4 and 44-4 early in that race. That's fast up there at Tampa, So I just thought this horse might hold on for a share of it.
Might be able to give Dennis Ward at least a fighting chance to get over that milestone, that hump. He's been stuck on 999 wins. It feels like every time he runs a horse, because he has sent out some live horses who have run well, of course, without winning, say, in the 3 to 6 to 1 range, and you might just get that again today with Eternal Tempest. But expect to see a very short price on Dancing Noel, who, aside from the Zerpa and the good post, may ultimately be the speed of the speed in a race. She may just win early on. Now, as far as speed goes, there is plenty of it concerning the number 1, Harry He, in our featured 8th race. We had a good crew of fillies and mares in the Thursday 8th. Same goes for the boys here in this 3 and up final dirt race on the card at 6 furlongs. We start with a field of 9, and Harry He doing what Harry He does best, and that is out there winging on the front end. Unfortunately for him, and we'll show you the race back on June the 6th, he happened to run into a razor-sharp Reason to Soar, who would come out of this race. He's in the West Point Gold and Black. He would cross the wire second behind XY Jet in the Smile Sprint. Was later disqualified to 4th or 5th, but a horse who's really gotten good this summer for trainer George Weaver. And let's not forget Cautious Giant, who has got to be, when I think of Conquest Sandman and a few other horses, this Son of Giants Causeway has been one of the best claims on this circuit over the last year, over the last 10 months or so. Shows up every single time he goes out there. And I'm wondering if XY Jet doesn't make the trek south from Jersey for the Smile Sprint. I'm wondering if Barboza and maybe even Harry He find their way into the Smile Sprint. I'm assuming because XY Jet was in town, and rightfully so, they opted to wait for this race and come in a little fresher. And I think good moves by both horsemen, by both trainers, not running against that monster here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I'm really enamored with both Cautious Giant. Harry He's got that inside speed in there. But I mentioned that I had my long shot in here, you have in third, and that's Splash Rules. He was making that move, trying to catch that super sprint to XY Jet. In, as you mentioned, a grade 3 Smile when Reason to Soar drifted out. If you go back and look, clipped heels that afternoon. He was sent back, disqualified to 5th. And I just thought this horse was making a nice move. I see a lot of speed. You mentioned Harry He. I see Splash Rules 10 to 1 on the morning line, just sitting that nice trip there, trying to get a little bit of a price. But as you saw my ticket, I went awful deep. I got an idea in here, but I'm not totally sold on that idea.
Splash Rules is a nice horse, really game, very talented, and was so good here last summer for trainer John Vinson. And I don't know this for a fact. I'm wondering if they just opted to give him a rest through, say, the first third of 2018 in order to have a fresher, fitter horse for the summer months here at Gulfstream, because he obviously loves the track. We also know the youngster, this is like the young whippersnapper, the number 3 Diamond Oops. He likes GP as well. He's 3 for 3 over the main track here. His lone defeat coming last summer up in Saratoga in the Saratoga Special. I wanted to pull the replay because he's an interesting sort of X factor in this race for trainer Patrick Biancone. I would imagine Patrick could have found an easier race. Geez, had he been ready to go, this horse, and we've got him highlighted last Classico day. It was, oh boy, was it cold and rainy on that Classico del Caribe afternoon, but a great day of racing nonetheless. And Diamond Oops skipped the carry back here a couple of weeks ago, which in my eyes and head, an easier race than today's 8th. And Patrick Biancone, the trainer, has opted to go in the tougher spot. And you are dealing with a horse, I know maybe he didn't break any stopwatches in terms of speed figures during his 2-year-old season. He was very poised and very seasoned and very professional in all of his wins. I'm very anxious to see what he can do today.
Yeah, we both have him in 4th for all the reasons that you mentioned. It's really a tough spot to come back, but if he can recapture that form that he showed before the layoff, he's got to beat older horses for the first time. But I think he's a solid horse, and good to see him coming back. Maybe this is the only spot that was available for him today to get his starters trek back to have a good summer campaign.
Yeah, I'm wondering what Patrick potentially has in mind. We'll see how he does. You just don't see 3-year-olds, even at this time of the year, all that often wind up in races like he is in this afternoon. Diamond Oops against the likes of Harry He and Cautious Giant and the gang. Race number 9, though, as we drop the curtain here, your Friday finale, just 9 on this Twilight Friday, features a field of 12. So a dozen here in the nightcap, basically running for 12. The claiming tags are 12,500. And between the 6 Giant Dilemma, who was scratched for maiden 25 here a few weeks ago, and ultimately drops to 12.5. I'm not a huge fan of that, but between him, the 10 R's Dream Fly for Barboza, and Shidoshi for my pal Antonio Sano, one of those 3 is likely to walk away with the win.
Yeah, and I was like confused about the drop with Giant Dilemma, as you mentioned. So I looked up a stat with Carlo Vaccarezza. Horse is going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming and sprints on the turf. He's 3 for 9, 33%, 67% in the money, and a positive return of investment. I didn't like the drop either, but when I saw the stat, I added him to my ticket.
So we've got the boys from Venezuela, and the way you see it, I'm thinking Victor B. and Amiseo, they could be sitting on a big Friday here.
Yeah, I mean, if they go by the way we made our selections, they certainly are. And they do. You know, you look down, and they have horses that fit the race shape that we have for this Friday card. Those claimers, those sprinters, you know, and that's what they make their money with, and I think they're going to have a big day.
All right, I hope that's the case. We know you're going to have a big day. Again, keep it locked on this live Friday edition of Gulfstream today. We'll take a little time out here on the broadcast. Pete Aiello coming up next, so get those pens and pencils ready. It's all about those Friday the 13th scratches. Up next, Ronnie and I back with you about 10 minutes or so before the first.